Now you can also, in addition to what you can do with like adding an error, you can also do other things with this. Before is you can do a validation over here. Now what happens again? Now this is a trigger dot insert before. Again inside the trigger dot new, you are saying system dot assert because you're checking for a value. So you can if this is false, the you can also pass a message assert equals and stop the processing from happening. So this way you can add some validations, but preferably validations are used via configurations. But in certain cases you want to do some things, so you can do that. And then you can pre-default a value. You can pre-default a value at the object level also via configuration, but dynamically if you want to add some logic, some formula or something which is depending on program, then that is allowed by, you just have to say within this for loop of this trigger dot new, you say account number with some default formula that you want. So here what will happen is this will get added to the trigger dot new and it will automatically get inserted. You don't need to do an insert over here. Please remember these are trigger context variables. Okay. Interview will say, why don't you insert? What will happen if I insert an account here? No. Insert is already happening because of that trigger is firing. Yes or no? So please keep a context. The insert is already happening because of which the trigger is running on the account. Somebody is inserting a record, correct? So please keep this context in mind. This will update the trigger.new buffer list and then automatically it will internally Salesforce insert it because already an insert action has been started by a user. Now what can you do in the after triggers? Basically you can do post record processing, you can create related records, update related records. You cannot make changes to the current record which triggered the after event. Like suppose I create an account and I have gone into the after event. You cannot make changes like this in this before that you're able to do in the same record. You cannot do this. Okay, even in the update. After update, before update you can make changes to the current record, but after update you cannot make changes to the same record. Now here what is happening here is an example over here. So after insert trigger dot is after trigger dot is insert. I'm not added the trigger dot is after. You can assume that. So here it's a typical list of contacts, bulk processing, and then again I'm going to the trigger dot new, which will contain all my new accounts, right? So I'm going to create a new contact over here for all these accounts and associate with the current account, because right now one very important point is in the after trigger you will get an ID. Okay, because the record is inserted into the database, so you will always get a record ID in the after trigger for each and every record, so you can use that ID and associate with the contact. So this is another important point. Okay, this is not available is in the uh, before trigger unless you have using a trigger.new map, or sorry, trigger in the update in the trigger.new old map it is available, otherwise it is not available in the before insert. So basically what is happening, this is how you write a trigger. So let's I am copying the trigger code. You can look at the description that contains an example of a trigger, but I'll quickly walk you through one here for your reference. So here is what we have. A trigger is there over here. So you say trigger on account and you're handling all the events, and then in the first section you're saying trigger dot is before is insert, and then you're doing some tasks over here, and then you have trigger dot is update again within the is before block. So here you're checking for some values using the trigger dot old map, and then you're stopping the processing. So basically what I'm trying to say is this is how you write a trigger. So you have to create blocks for is before is insert is update and use the trigger dot new and trigger dot old map wherever required. And you can also have a after section over here. So like trigger dot is before, you can also have a trigger dot after section. Now one more thing, interviewer may ask you, what is the concept of a trigger handler? So basically the concept of the trigger handler is all this logics that you are writing in a trigger should not be written here, and it is basically for modularization. So if you see here, there is an account trigger handler, right? So this all your logic should be inside this class. So this is a static method of this class. So all the logic you will write inside this. Here you will only send it to that particular trigger handler. So this is for basically for modularization and better code control, okay, and for debugging also. So if you want to see a trigger handler, yeah, so now this is a trigger handler. So this is a class and you have a method over here. So each method will handle, it takes the trigger dot new as an input. So see all the main logic you write over here. Okay, same for all after insert, before insert. So you have to create trigger handlers like this. So the benefit of this, with the interviewer will ask is, what is the benefit is for modularization and for debugging and error handling. Okay, so that is what trigger handler is about.